members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Telem-Tel TV Plus, respective radio stations island-wide, online, and TV 15 viewers. I'm Rulaika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, Egbert Duran, to address you. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolaika. Good morning to you, good morning to members of the media, Prime Minister, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. I would like to start this morning by wishing all women here in this room and all tuned in a happy International Women's Day, and also by extension, the entire women population of St. Martin. I would also like to notice and congratulate our very own Franklin van Gerp, who is currently in the World Baseball Classic. He was able to make the roster. As a St. Martiner, I want to share my congratulations to him, to his family, and to the entire population of St. Martin for that matter, because I believe that it is a great accomplishment. I too started out playing baseball when I was young. I mean, obviously I didn't make it that far. So we have to really recognize those that are pushing and moving forward and also paving the way for others. Him and many others that are participating on different international levels. I have a few brief updates today. I'd like to start with an update on the Dutch Quarter Sewage Network. Over the last few weeks, the ministry has been working to resolve the ongoing issue with the sewage network in Dutch Quarter. As previously mentioned, there are several pits that house the pumps to enable the sewage to make it over the Mount William Hill. This in itself is not easy. Imagine your car stalls with you on a hill sideways and you try to open the door. This is what I'm trying to put in perspective with regards to trying to pump sewage over a hill. It's not an easy task because you're always at a war with gravity. Nevertheless, we were able to be triumphant. Pumping water over the hill is the same as I mentioned. It takes a lot of force to get the water going. Over time, the fact that the pits were not lined properly also resulted in the walls not being able to hold the sewage water effectively. We saw this in pit 4, which was condemned, and a bypass was put in place just over a month ago. We also faced failing pumps in the area as well. These issues plagued the residents in the area for a very long time. It is not fair to have them to endure such a stench that comes from this. I want to reassure them and everyone else that this issue is being taken very seriously. Yesterday, I was present as the team turned on the replacement pump in pit 3 for the technical incline. This replacement was bigger than the first phase 3 pump. 40 kilowatt basically transitions to 54 horsepower, 68,000 gallons per hour, 37 meters on a lifting head. Based on the calculation carried out, this is more than enough to push the sewage over the hill. With its temporary solution that we put in place, we expect things to return to normal. So I'm happy to announce that after quite a while of enduring that difficult time, the residents of Dutch Quarter can rest assured that the solution was put in place and is currently active. I would also like to thank the residents for their patience during this entire process. Me and the team were having daily updates on this whole entire process. I would like to thank the hardworking staff from the Ministry of Rummy, the staff of the wastewater treatment plant, also the GEBE for their support with respect to that entire project. With that, I would like to conclude my opening remarks, and I look forward to any questions members of the media might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Sylvia Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister Jacobs, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Rolaika. Good morning to you. Good morning to all tuned into my voice, of course, Minister Duran and the people of St. Martin. I would like to start off by saying that today is one filled with joy as we celebrate International Women's Day. Women have historically faced discrimination and oppression in various aspects of life, including education, employment, politics, personal relationship, as well as access to areas that we are historically not known to be fully engaged in. Today, by acknowledging and celebrating women on their achievements, and by doing so every day, we then take action to support and advocate for women's rights, their dignity, their well being, and ensuring access to and participation in all segments of our community. Women, I see women as the foundation of every family, and the family at the core of a community. So when we strengthen women, we strengthen families, and we create a strong community, and therefore a strong St. Martin. As your Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, and as a woman myself, I understand the importance of embracing Women's History Month and dedicating my days to showing up for and ensuring the voices of women are heard. The Secretary General of the United Nations, in opening the UN Women's Conference 2023 just earlier this week, pledged 100% support to promoting equality for women and girls in all aspects of life, to making the future digital and equitable world for women and girls. This Women's Conference is ongoing, and it brings women and girl leaders from around the world to find ways to ensure that women's and girls' rights are a part of every discussion and every decision. So, we too, on our 37 square mile, Paradise should do everything within our power to ensure that our women and girls have every opportunity to achieve their potential and realize their dreams. So I urge everyone, wherever you are, I am sure there is a woman in your life that you can honor. So take the time today on International Women's Day, March 8th, to focus on the achievements of this group of women. Those who have gone through hardships, those who have risen above the many trials and tribulations they face and move forward. I think when I go to international settings, St. Martin actually stands out as one that has quite a few women in areas of leadership, unlike some places in South America and other parts of the world where some girls are not even allowed to go to school. So we push that we will continue to move forward and that the rights of women all over the world continue to be advocated for, but especially here on St. Martin. Though we see, and also here in civil service, a lot of women in leadership, a lot of women, actually more than 60% of our workforce being women, we're still seeing in certain areas that there are women not getting opportunities. So I challenge women from both near and far to push past any gender biases that may still exist within your communities and the expectations, and never limit yourself to the expectations of others, but to achieve levels of excellence beyond your own imagination. Dream big, create plans, and find opportunities to make that dream a reality. As government, we will continue to strive to create an environment to ensure equal opportunities for women and girls to be able to make strides in areas especially of STEM, being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are areas where we still see a minimum of women, and I would like to highlight all of those here on the island already in these fields and encourage our girls to go out and study in these areas, because we're moving forward in a technology age that will not, and if we don't jump in, we will be left behind. So while we're progressing now, let us keep up by engaging in these areas and forge a new path together towards a future that will be paved with equality for all. Happy International Women's Day, and especially to my CoM female staff, happy International Women's Day to you and all the civil servants on St. Martin. We continue to support and develop our employees by providing the Work Vitality Program. Though today there will be no yoga, the program will be commencing. I also like to take the time to encourage the St. Martin population to take part in the SXM DOOT 2023. It is quickly approaching this weekend, and as government, we have also pledged to promote volunteerism within the civil service, and I'm encouraging all civil servants and people of St. Martin to sign up if you haven't done so as yet and volunteer to assist the most vulnerable in our community. The SXM DOOT is one of our largest volunteer initiatives on the island, and this year will mark the 9th year of community enrichment projects. I would also like to encourage people who want to volunteer all year round to register at volunteer.sx. So there's an opportunity that if you have extra time, maybe you don't have the money, but you have a little bit of time to contribute back to the community in this way. As Prime Minister, I have encouraged the civil servants to sign up. My cabinet is also signed up, and we will be out there doing our due as well. It will be held on Friday, March 10th, and Saturday, March 11th. And as long as the service permits, people who sign up on Friday will be granted a time off to take part. All interested persons should visit www.sxmdoot.com to view projects and make a change that you want to see within our community. I'd also like to remind you to minimize, to ensure that we are all doing our part to minimize the use of single-use plastic. There are many ways. Each citizen can do so by refusing to use plastic materials that are offered to you, walking with your own reusable bags for shopping and grocery shopping, as well as using alternative products that break down more easily within our landfill and are less hazardous to our community. Also, when going to the beach and enjoying our environment, always walk with a trash bag or separate your, if you use plastics, and put them in recycle bins. Just like our Minister of Vromi, I want to take the time to congratulate young man, Mr. Franklin van Gurp, as well as all of the other St. Martiners who have over the years taken part in this World Baseball Classic and who are out there in many sports and arts and let's call it academic achievements, making a name for St. Martin. You are true ambassadors, and we congratulate you. Continue to follow your dreams. Just a couple of days ago, I was able to welcome back our Leeward Island debate winners. This is the first time that St. Martin debaters have won, our students have won in the Leeward Islands. It is a historical moment for us. And the best speakers were women. In fact, the majority of the team is made up of girls. So I'm super proud of them. Congratulations once again. And thanks to the Hyacinth Richardson Education Foundation for continuing to push our students in this field. So we have people excelling in education areas. We've had them in moot court. We've had them in math Olympiads in the Netherlands. We have them also in sports and arts all over the world. And once they are doing that, please share it with us so that we can put them in the spotlight and the media can as well. That's all I have for today. And I thank you for your attention, and I wish each and every one of you a blessed day further.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. I would like to inform members of the media and the viewing and listening public that the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Omar Ali, is present. However, will not be making any opening statements, but available for any questions the media may have. We now move on to the question and answer session, and I would like to invite Bibi Hotshaw of SMN News. You have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, ministers. My first question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Jacobs, can you give us an update on the cleanup of the census office and how this will, the census, not the office, but census data, how will this affect election coming this year? And has the government taken a decision to, let's say, go to full governing term and have elections in January, or will there be a dissolution of parliament before? Reasons for this, Prime Minister, should this full term complete, then we are looking at an election that would have to elect a 17-seat parliament. So I'd like to know, where are we on this?
Thank you for that question. I didn't get an update just recently, but I know that the Civil Registry Department is working diligently with the staff working overtime to do the backlog, to update the backlog. So when I have a final date, I will announce that. As government, we have not made any decisions to move up the date of the election. So as it stands now, it remains at January 2024. If that changes, you will be apprised in due time.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Bibi. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, as we are on the verge of election, is it indication that the government will not last? very long, Minister, saying that can you make it clear to the public? It has been said that you have asked the Minister of Education to step down, Minister. Can you be more specific? Because the public, everybody is having their say. But can you be plain? Give the public an ear so that they can see the right thing.
I believe I responded to Ms. Shaw already regarding the election date. And so there needs to be no further elaboration as to that. If there are any changes in the election date, it will be noticed. If parties are in full swing and expect to be having an election earlier, that's on them. Everybody's free to prepare, and I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Lyndon. Andrew Dick of TV15, you have the floor.
Thank you, Roleka. Good morning to the ministers present today, and of course, good morning to all. As a clarification, Prime Minister, on the question from Ms. Shaw, the 17 seats, you didn't mention whether we're going to go to 17 seats in January when election is called. And my question for the Minister of VSA has to do with the hospital update.
Thank you, Andrew. Prime Minister?
Yes, the number, I think I mentioned this in previous press briefings. The number will depend on when the cleanup is finished. So once the cleanup is finished, we know then the total and we'll know how many seats.
Good morning, Rolika. Good morning, Honorable Prime Minister. And I would like to wish each and every one of the women in this room, the viewing public in St. Martin and around the world, a happy International Women's Day. May you enjoy this day, and not only this one, but all the other days to come. Mr. Dick, pertaining to your question with the hospital, I'm happy to announce that the Fourth Amendment contract has been approved by the board of SMMC and will be signing today. So officially now an agreement has been met. It has been a long time back and forth between SMMC and FINSO, but I'm happy today, and now everyone will be held responsible for their part in ensuring that we have many persons working on the hospital site, and not only many persons, but using as much local resources as possible. So thank you for that question. Today will be the signing of that official contract.
Thank you, Minister Otley. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. My question to the Minister of VSA, Minister Otley. I'm sure you're aware because I personally contacted you about the various the deaths that occurred with people in Colombia that was sent referral patients to Colombia. You indicated there was some sort of investigation. As we said, there was an investigation. Can you tell me where is that investigation? And also, what decision has been taken by SZV with regards to referral? I'm hearing patients are now going to be sent to Panama or back to Santo Domingo. Has a decision been taken to halt all referrals to Colombia until clarity can be given onto the deaths that occurred late last year and last month?
Good morning again, Ms. Shah. Indeed, I am aware of this situation. We have spoken a couple of times. SFA had launched a full investigation. They even sent members of their team to Colombia, interviewed some persons from St. Martin that have been there. I saw the list of persons. The report has been completed. Unfortunately, due to patient confidentiality, it was not revealed to me. However, it was sent to the family. Now, I must say this. If the family is not satisfied with what is in the report through SZV, there's an option to contact the inspectorate in Colombia to review any further concerns that the family has. But I have not been divulged the details of the information or the details of the tragic circumstance, but I have been informed that the family have received a report. If they are not satisfied or happy with the report, there's an option through SLV. They can deal with the inspectorate at Colombia, who can then investigate the hospital more thoroughly, as our system also has a way where medical center would send a report, and if we are not satisfied, we can contact IVSR, Inspectorate of VSR, who then will conduct another investigation if the family is not happy.
Can I get a follow up? Minister, as a relative of one of the deceased, I received an incomplete report. And the families of the deceased, they didn't have a choice of choosing Colombia to take their families there. Many of these people, they do not speak Spanish. How do you expect them to now say St. Martin, SZV, medical center, whoever, decide to send these patients to Colombia, and now you're saying they died tragically, suddenly, and you're saying, okay, contact the inspectorate. This is not a choice of the patient.
Okay, if I may, and I understand your, I would say, passion or emotion being a family member, my sympathy to you, definitely. Colombia has been something where patients have been flown to for many years. Also, again, there was a tender that went out for the hospitals that Colombia chose to be one and was the most feasible based on not only price, but all of the logistics and requirements. However, persons that go to Meta Santo Domingo or Panama, those persons are doing follow-up. So if I had a procedure with a doctor in Panama, of course, I'm allowed to go to Panama. Where it pertains to your discussion of speaking with IVSR, then that's where SLV would make that connection. You have all right, the family has all right. That's what I was giving you the sign to please don't divulge too much details publicly, as is the person's and the family's right of confidentiality. But definitely, if you are not satisfied, Misha, and if as a family, if the family then chose to come to the minister and sit with the minister with the report, then that is a possibility. But as for SFA to send me, no. But the family can do what it feels with the report. So if they are not satisfied, I welcome the family to sit with me as minister to go through the report, and that way we can move forward.
Thank you,
Tell us
Minister.
about the part with
Thank
what
you,
decision
Minister
have been
Otley.
taken.
BB, unfortunately, I've already provided you follow-ups.
To my knowledge, there's no change in referrals. As stated, if you're doing follow-ups, we would send you back to the doctor, to Panama, to Santo Domingo. To my knowledge, there's no change in first-time referrals, but I will ask a question if maybe you know something that I don't.
Thank you, Minister Otley. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Otley. Minister Otley, recently you have some project that is pending. For instance, you went to the Dominican Republic and you were speaking about agriculture. And also it is pending the marijuana study and the MOU with Curacao and Aruba for bringing airline to St. Martin. So which of them is close you can emphasize?
Okay. Definitely, I can emphasize on all the Dominican Republic. There's still dialogue, and what is the problem? We had a meeting with our wholesalers on St. Martin. First of all, I'd like to make it clear now that that was in my capacity as TIAC, but I can inform the public. We had a meeting with the wholesalers, and what we realized is that the turnaround time and the quantity needed in St. Martin was a bit a bottleneck for the Dominican Republic. So the last conversations, we were working out the logistics to ensure that these wholesalers then would meet their demand. Because what happened is sometimes the shipment would be late, and then they won't have, for instance, bananas. So cost you less. For instance, just an example, won't have bananas, so then therefore you go somewhere. So we are working out those logistics. The minister and his team has taken the mantle, and they are continuing that discussion. Number two, when it pertains to the marijuana, the cannabis legislation, the RFP went out. We received a lot of proposals. We are going through the proposals. There's a committee that was formed, and they are basing their proposals with the criterias. And then once those proposals are done, then the best choices will be submitted to the cabinet and then via the CoM. But this is the RFP to help St. Martin do research analyze, and develop a proper legislative trajectory. The third one, I can't remember what you said, but oh, the airline. The MOU has been signed, and the airports are in. The airport CEOs are in constant contact, and together, then they can create a more of a strengthened approach to the airlines to create interregional travel and hopefully lessen the price. But that one might be the closest on the TIAT perspective and on the VSR perspective. Within the next month or two, we will have a winner for the RFP for the cannabis.
But lastly, there's a problem you need to.
Mr. Brown, can you kindly use a mic, please?
Yeah. What happened with the marijuana? It seemed like the way people behaving right now as if it had already legalized. Because what is bothering that a lot of parents are using the marijuana in their houses, and children are going to school. When they go to school, they cannot concentrate. So I want to speak to the parents that it ain't legalized as yet, so that you could smoke it anywhere, anytime.
Well, that's on the aspect of justice. They handle enforcement. And to my point, because there's a lot of persons as well, this will all be in the research. To my point, there's a lot of persons when they hear cannabis or marijuana, that is what happened. They get antsy and they just look at it negative. But as a matter of fact, same thing you said is being used frequent right now. The marijuana industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we have seen it basically save economies. And I think for us to be one of the first within the Dutch Caribbean islands, countries, besides the Netherlands, to do this, this will definitely be a different pillar to our economy. Studies have shown Antigua has made upward of $27 million yearly just off of their cannabis approval.
Thank you, Minister Otley, and thank you, Lyndon. Andrew, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Question for the Prime Minister, since the Minister of Justice is not here. As far as the justice workers is concerned, of course, the union responded to the minister's letter of placement that's going to be issued by the 15th of March. So as far as the Council of Ministers position on the union saying that the 15th of March is the date that they're giving the Justice Ministry for action.
Yes, the Minister of Justice is arriving back today, God's willing, and will surely address any and all questions being put to her in this regard. We did have a meeting with the CCSU, a consultation meeting with the CCSU, of which the NRPB is a member. They did ask some questions in that meeting where I was able to reiterate that the Justice Ministry consists of 9 departments. In an effort to ensure that all placement is done accurately, some of the other departments that maybe didn't have LBAs or MBAs, so legislated appointments, they're being asked to submit extra documentation to ensure that there's less need for appeal after the fact. So they're doing their due diligence. They're in the last phases of it. The RPS, as well as the SWAB, are doing their due diligence. And then they still expect to be done by the end of March, as was promised. So the 15th was never a date that had been promised initially. It was promised by the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, which is at the end of March. So the minister is committed to reaching that deadline. All of the stakeholders are committed, and they're trying to do so with as little errors as possible, so ensuring that there's little need for appeal after the fact. So I'm asking the police unions and the police workers, as well as any other justice workers, to, we've been through this now for a while. This minister has taken it and really pushed to get it finalized, and we're now, let's call it 5 minutes to 12, a few minutes more, so a little more patience until it is finalized. So I'm just appealing for some patience to allow the process to be finalized as was promised by the end of the first quarter. So the minister will address that when she gets back, but I'm hoping that this message also resonates. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Thank you, Andrew. We now move on to the third round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Prime Minister, can you tell us if the government of St. Martin have taken a decision on a way forward regarding NVGEB now that you have had more than a week with the 5 reports that was presented to the Council of Ministers?
I believe last week we mentioned that the meeting was held and GEBE board and management was given 2 weeks to finalize their recommendations as a result of the reports. So that will be hopefully by the end of next week.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Bibi. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, it seems like the airport is becoming the center of confusion, Prime Minister. Prime Minister, it was recently a long worker at the airport. Presently now is being disappointed. It's been said that a person who do not have experience seems like the person will supersede the present communication personnel of the airport, Minister. And this aspect, Minister, what I'm asking, what is the way out to solve this problem? I mean, let me allow you to respond.
Just yesterday, the Council of Ministers was updated on the reports or the final reports of the implementation team of corporate governance that had been doing its study on the airport. It comes at a good time because as we discussed in that council meeting, it is important that the public is more aware of the, let's call it the authorities of each level. What is ongoing at the airport currently is an operational matter. It is for the supervisory board of the operating company to deal with it. As shareholder, we have taken a decision, however, to request information because it is causing confusion and it will create even more negative press for the airport. So we have requested the holding company, which is the one that we can speak to in this regard, to update us or get some information and inform the shareholder. So that is what we as shareholder can do. But we will endeavor to ensure that, and we have in various meetings prior, that the culture at the airport continues to improve. So we see this as definitely not an improvement, and that there is a sense of feeling that the employees belong and are part of the progress at the airport. We are looking forward to the airport being reopened partially this year and hopefully by next year completely. And so we want to be able to do so. You're as strong as your employees. And so we encourage the airport's management and supervisory board to do its due diligence, ensuring that employees are treated fairly. And we will be following up with the holding.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. I would now like to invite Andrew. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Minister of Romy, can we get an update on the project, the relocation project of the at the dump? And also, you mentioned some spaces that the Romy department is working on for the cemetery. How's that going along?
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Mr. Dick. With respect to the resettlement, tomorrow morning I have a tour scheduled to visit the site and be more informed on the most recent developments then, so to speak. So that is taking place tomorrow. So I look forward to updating the general public once that is concluded. What I will be sharing now will be basically kind of semi-outdated information because there were some great strides in terms of the progress of it. Respect to the burial spaces, as I mentioned over a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, it is indeed a challenge and it continues to be a challenge. With respect to finding land to purchase, we are actively looking and also looking for different solutions as well. As I discussed with my colleagues a couple weeks ago, it is something that requires input from various ministries, but it is an island-wide issue that we are facing, and I think that once we involve all the relevant stakeholders, which would be government and also the funeral homes and the community on a whole, I think that we will get through it, but I must say that it is and it will be a challenge because I receive calls on a daily basis almost with different, issues in terms of spacing. So it is a challenge. Thank you for your question. And I want to again say, it's something that I mentioned back then. Um, Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. This is something that I believe should have be at the forefront, maybe even 10 years ago, at the least. We didn't plan, and now we're here facing this now. And I want to reiterate that one of the main things that I focus on as minister is planning for the future. Spatial planning, different things that we have to do in order to safeguard the future of our next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran. We now move on to the final round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaiko. Prime Minister Jacobs, as a former educator, former Minister of Education, I'm asking this question because we don't have the Minister of Education, but I'd like to get your views on this. Are you concerned or satisfied with the provisions made for children with learning disabilities at the moment? And can you tell us when exactly, with the finalization of the Prince William Alexander School, when would the repairs resume, and when is an expected finish date, completion date? When will this happen? I mean, we have children with learning disability displaced all over the island, and we're not getting any solid information coming forward from government. Can you give me your views on this as a former educator, a Minister of Education, and now Prime Minister?
Yes, Bibi, I think if you've listened to me over the years, you know that my passion for education will never die. I will be at education until I leave and transition. So I can never be satisfied if one child is left behind. I would not be satisfied whether I'm Minister of Education or not. The challenges, just like the Minister of Vromi mentioned, are not challenges that were born today. So even in my tenure, at the time, there was no policy. The policy preparation, etc., had to start. However, the school exists. Prince William Alexander School, though not at the location it should be at, which is in St. Peter's area. The reconstruction started back when I was minister. Up to now, it's not done. That's a whole other story. When it will be done, I cannot say. And that you will definitely have to follow up with the minister, the current Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport for that one. What I can tell you is that a lot of times the cost or the stigma, that was attached to Prince William Alexander kept parents from allowing their children to go. With compulsory education, most children would start in a regular stream unless they were extremely special, and then they would go to the Sister Basilia Center, which also has an educational program for children with extreme learning behaviors. Back when we were rebuilding the Prince William Alexander School in St. Peter's, it was set up to be addressing both types, so learning disabilities as well as behavioral problems. Because at the time, which is many years ago, I don't have the up-to-date statistics, there were many children being placed in special needs education because of behavioral problems, not necessarily because of learning problems. What also happened back then is many of the school boards that were subsidized were able to expand their subsidy by offering special needs classes within their schools. And so several schools have done so, the Hillside Christian School, as well as the Catholic schools. So there's SP, the Protestant School Board, which manages Hillside Christian schools, and the Catholic school boards both have special needs classes that they also, seeing that Prince William Alexander wasn't able to handle all of the referrals. And I think that's a good idea. If we offer more children the opportunity to stay in mainstream education while offering them their special needs, and the foundation-based education is set up for that. But it requires a lot of investment, which we know funding-wise we didn't have. So are we there where we want to be? No. Are we growing towards it? Yes. From what I've heard, the policy should be finalized. There is attention for it. And I look forward to the minister updating you on that.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Bibi. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Utley. Minister Utley, you have been, let me say, before I come to the question, um, your charismatic behavior, approach to things is welcome, Minister. What I want to mention about the minimum wage, what have come to your office? Has it working? Employees are complying? And tell us about the progress.
Well, thank you for the compliment. Yes, the idea is for it to work. Does do all employees follow the law regulations? I wouldn't know. I urge everyone to. There's a lot of businesses on Dutch St. Martin, and if no one complains, I won't know. So I'll use this time to urge anyone that is have been still receiving the previous salary, the previous minimum wage salary, to please make a complaint. I know a lot of times persons are unfair, but it's the law. You know, it is the law. You cannot be paid for full time under the regulated amount. So I would use this time to urge anyone that is still receiving their old minimum wage salary to please complain to the Labor Department.
Thank you, Minister Otley. Andrew? As Andrew doesn't have any questions for this round, I would like to inform members of the media this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. For rebroadcast, tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio via 107.9 FM, Telemcell TV Plus, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, YouTube channel Government of St. Martin, and TV 15. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing everyone a safe and pleasant day and a happy International Women's Day to all the women of St. Martin.